Word list 45. Tantrum. Fit of petulance, caprice. The child learned that he could have almost anything if he had a tantrum. Tarantula. Venomous spider. We need an antitoxin to counteract the bite of the tarantula. Tarry. Delay, dawdle. We can't tarry if we want to get to the airport on time. Taut. Tight, ready. The captain maintained that he ran a taut ship. Tautological. Needlessly repetitious. In the sentence it was visible to the eye, the phrase to the eye is tautological. Tautology. Unnecessary repetition. Joyful happiness is an illustration of tautology. Tawdry. Cheap and gaudy. He won a few tawdry trinkets in Coney Island. Tedious. Boring, tiring. The repetitious nature of work on the assembly line made Martin's job very tedious. Temerity. Boldness, rashness. Do you have the temerity to argue with me? Temper. Moderate, tone down or restrain, toughen, steel. Not even her supervisor's grumpiness could temper Nancy's enthusiasm for her new job. Temperament. Characteristic frame of mind, disposition, emotional excess. Although the twins look alike, they differ markedly in temperament. Todd is calm, but Rod is excitable. Temperate. Restrained, self-controlled, moderate in respect to temperature. Try to be temperate in your eating this holiday season. If you control your appetite, you won't gain too much weight. Tempestuous. Stormy, impassioned, violent. Racquet-throwing tennis star John McEnroe was famed for his displays of tempestuous temperament. Tempo. Speed of music. I find the band's tempo too slow for such a lively dance. Temporal. Not lasting forever, limited by time, secular. At one time in our history, temporal rulers assumed that they had been given their thrones by divine right. Temporize. Avoid committing oneself, gain time. I cannot permit you to temporize any longer, I must have a definite answer today. Tenacious. Holding fast. I had to struggle to break his tenacious hold on my arm. Tenacity. Firmness, persistence. Jean Valjean could not believe the tenacity of Inspector Javert. Here all Valjean had done was to steal a loaf of bread, and the inspector had pursued him doggedly for 20 years. Tendentious. Having a name, biased, designed to further a cause. The editorials in this periodical are tendentious rather than truth-seeking. Tender. Offer, extent. Although no formal charges had been made against him, in the wake of the recent scandal the mayor felt he should tender his resignation. Tenet. Doctrine, dogma. The agnostic did not accept the tenets of their faith. Tensile. Capable of being stretched. Mountain climbers must know the tensile strength of their ropes. Tentative, hesitant, not fully worked out or developed. Experimental, not definite or positive. Unsure of his welcome at the Christmas party. Scrooge took a tentative step into his nephew's drawing room. Tenuous. Thin, rare, slim. The allegiance of our allies is held by rather tenuous ties. Tenure. Holding of an office, time during which such an office is held. He has permanent tenure in this position and cannot be fired. Tepid. Lukewarm. During the summer, I like to take a tepid bath, not a hot one. Termination. End. Though the time for termination of the project was near, we still had a lot of work to finish before we shut up shop. Terminology. Terms used in a science or art. The special terminology developed by some authorities in the field has done more to confuse the layman than to enlighten him. Terminus, last stop of railroad. After we reached the railroad terminus, we continued our journey into the wilderness on saddle horses. Terrestrial. Earthly, as opposed to celestial, pertaining to the land. In many science fiction films, alien invaders from outer space plan to destroy all terrestrial life. Terse. Concise, abrupt, pithy. There is a fine line between speech that is terse and to the point and speech that is too abrupt. Testy. Irritable, short-tempered. My advice is to avoid discussing this problem with him today as he is rather testy and may shout at you. Tether. Tie with a rope. Before we went to sleep, we tethered the horses to prevent their wandering off during the night. Thematic. Relating to a unifying motif or idea. Those who think of Moby Dick as a simple adventure story about whaling miss its underlying thematic import. Theocracy. Government run by religious leaders. Though some pilgrims aboard the Mayflower favored the establishment of a theocracy in New England, many of their fellow voyagers preferred a non-religious form of government. Theoretical. Not practical or applied, hypothetical. Bob was better at applied engineering and computer programming than he was at theoretical physics and math. While I can still think of some theoretical objections to your plan, you've convinced me of its basic soundness. Therapeutic. Curative. Now better known for its racetrack, Saratoga Springs first gained attention for the therapeutic qualities of its famous healing waters. Therapy. Thermal. Pertaining to heat. The natives discovered that the hot springs made excellent thermal baths and began to develop their community as a health resort. Thespian. Pertaining to drama. Her success in the school play convinced her she was destined for a thespian career. Threadbare. Worn through till the threads show, shabby and poor. The poor adjunct professor hid the threadbare spots on his jacket by sewing leather patches on his sleeves. Thrifty. Careful about money, economical. A thrifty shopper compares prices before making major purchases. Thrive. Prosper, flourish. Despite the impact of the recession on the restaurant trade, Phillips Cafe thrived. Throws. violent anguish. The throes of despair can be as devastating as the spasms accompanying physical pain. Throng. Crowd. Throngs of shoppers jammed the aisles. Thwart. Baffle, frustrate. He felt that everyone was trying to thwart his plans and prevent his success. Tightwad. Excessively frugal person, miser. Jill called Jack a tightwad because he never picked up the check. Tiller. Handle used to move boat's rudder, to steer. Fearing the wind might shift suddenly and capsize the skiff, Tom kept one hand on the tiller at all times. Timidity. Lack of self-confidence or courage. If you are to succeed as a salesman, you must first lose your timidity and fear of failure. Timorous. Fearful, demonstrating fear. His timorous manner betrayed the fear he felt at the moment. Tirade. Extended scolding, denunciation, harangue. Every time the boss holds a meeting, he goes into a lengthy tirade, scolding us for everything from tardiness to padding our expenses. Titanic. Gigantic. Titanic waves beat against the majestic SS Titanic, driving it against the concealed iceberg. Title. Right or claim to possession, mark of rank, name, of a book, film, etc. Though the penniless Duke of Ragworth no longer held title to the family estate, he still retained his title as head of one of England's oldest families. Titter. Nervous laugh. Her aunt's constant titter nearly drove her mad. Titular. Nominal holding of title without obligations. Although he was the titular head of the company, the real decisions were made by his general manager. Toady. Servile flatterer, yes man. Never tell the boss anything he doesn't wish to hear. He doesn't want an independent advisor, he just wants a toady. Tome. Large volume. He spent much time in the libraries poring over ancient tomes. Tonic. Invigorating, refreshing. The tart homemade ginger ale had a tonic effect on Kit. She perked right up.